The M2 and you, is it the right choice? That's what we're going to find out in this week's video. Hi, I'm David, and first of all, I just wanted to say thank you ever so much. You guys have really made a difference last week. You've given me an early Christmas present, loads of new subs, and I really appreciate that as we drive towards the first 1,000 before the end of the year. What a great New Year's resolution that would be. Anyway, back to the video this week, talking about the M2 MacBook Air. I've had it for 6 months now, and to be honest, it's probably slightly underused. Why? Because I tend to use the MacBook Pro most of the time. The kind of work I do, I tend to need that extra grunt, that horsepower that is the reason I bought the 16-inch MacBook Pro for, and it does its job for me day in and day out. But I always forget about using the M2 MacBook Air more regularly. But of course, it's got its weaknesses, some, not many, and also it's got its user case. And that's what I thought I'd talk through in this video today, because it could be that you're thinking of buying one for yourself, looking out in the sales that are coming up around Christmas and the New Year. You might be buying it for a friend or a member of your family. So let's just go through quickly. I'm not going to waffle this week. I'm going to go through quickly some of the good and the bad points that you need to look out for on the MacBook Air and see if we can help you towards deciding if this machine is for you. Now, if you've watched this channel for any length of time, you'll know that I'm not really much of an iPad user. I've never found a use case for them. They just haven't fitted into my workflow all that well. And when I bought the M2 MacBook Air earlier this year, in the summer this year, in fact, I got it on the day it was released and ordered it and opened it up on the channel as well. But when I ordered it and started using it, it was another nail in the iPad's coffin. There's just no point in me having one. The MacBook Pro, if you watched last week's video, you know that I view that much as a desktop that you can move. Obviously, the real calling card, the strength of the MacBook Air is that it is ultra portable. It's super lightweight. And where it wins out for me over the iPad is its usability. You've got a desktop. And if you've downloaded Ventura onto it, you're getting the best of Mac OS. You can drag and drop. You can have multiple tabs open on Safari easily. You can do everything you would do on a larger desktop on this little, small, ultra notebook sitting on your lap, on a plane, on a train, take it to a coffee shop. You can do everything you want on this MacBook Air. Now, believe it or not, the price of the base model M2 MacBook Air is pound for pound exactly the same price as an iPad Pro. But of course, with an iPad Pro, you then got to add on a keyboard. You're almost certainly going to want to use a keyboard with it, and probably an Apple Pencil. And as soon as you do that, you're £300 to £400 more expensive than the MacBook Air, which clearly comes with its keyboard and trackpad already in that price. So it wins on usability and it wins on price. And for me, that's a huge thing, because it just means I'm ready to go anywhere with the MacBook Air. Now, spec-wise, it's easy to spec up. There's a few choices on it. With the M2 architecture that you've now got, it means that you can spec it up with various levels of unified memory. You can go for the 8 gigs, which is what I've got. You can go for 16 or now up to 24. The reason I only had the 8 gigs was because I got it on the day of release. I bought it for this channel on the first day from memory. I think it was the first Friday in June that they came out, and I ordered it there and then. And the only configs you could get were 512 of storage, 512 gigs of storage, and 8 gigs of unified memory. So that's the machine I've got. But you can now, because of M2, take it all the way up to 24 gigs of unified memory, which would be more than enough for this portable notebook. Now, storage, I'm going to come back to in a moment. As I say, I've got it in 512 gigs, but it does also come in a 1 terabyte version and a 2 terabyte version. But we are coming back to storage, I promise you. So as for usability, it's a Mac. What do you expect? The keyboard, first of all, really easy to use. It's lightweight, it's tactile, it's well balanced, fairly clicky. It's just a good keyboard to use. If you're a touch typist, you'll probably get the best out of it. The trackpad is every bit the equal of the trackpad that I use on its bigger brother, the MacBook Pro. Really good to use. If you used a Mac trackpad, you're going to know exactly what that feels like. It's just the best. The screen is slightly bigger than the outgoing, but still available M1 MacBook Air. It's 13.6 inches now. And now I'm a person that loves a big display. You've probably seen me make videos about the Studio Display and about my 27-inch iMac and the 16-inch MacBook Pro. You're getting the idea. I like big displays. But the 13.6-inch display that comes on the MacBook Air, it's big enough actually. And because of the slimmer, smaller black bezels that are on the screen now, it actually feels good enough for the job. And even as a man of my age that likes a bigger screen, this is good enough for the job. And I have edited videos and audio on here, which again says everything of its performance, but also for the screen size that you can use. So the screen, it's bright. Again, if I'm comparing it against the MacBook Pro, which isn't necessarily a fair thing to do, of course it's slightly dimmer, but it's a bright, vivid screen. It's a Retina screen. If you use Mac, what you'd expect from Mac, you're getting on this M2 MacBook Air. Lovely bright colors, just a great machine to use from every direction you want to look at it. So look, this MacBook Air has been out for a little while now, so there's no point me going through belts and braces, everything on there. I've made videos, the world and its wife have made videos about the M2 MacBook Air, but suffice to say that the camera that you get on there, the mics that you get on there, although I haven't, in all honesty, used them for a conference call or video call at all, they'd be good enough. I've done test recordings on them and they're fine. But if you're running Ventura on your MacBook Air now, don't forget you can use continuity camera anyway now. I'll leave a link to a video that I made all about that up there. And that gets you around the problems that there may have been with the camera that you got on the M2 MacBook Air. But as I say, even if you don't use continuity camera, the mic system and the cameras are good enough. The speakers, again, look, don't expect miracles. It is a tiny, slim little notebook. And speakers like air, they like space. They need a bit of size to give them that really thick, deep sound that you might be wanting and expecting. But for such a portable machine, they're really good speakers. That said, if you're a considerate person, when I'm out with this MacBook Air, which is where I tend to use it most of the time away from the studio, I always pop in the AirPod Pro anyway, so the speakers on there aren't a big issue. But if you are listening, say at home, in bed, or you're just watching some content casually, the speakers on there are good enough, but of course, not in the league of the 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pro, which you'd kind of expect. Battery life is as good as you've heard. I'm not going to waste time talking about it. It is brilliant. It really is. It will get you through a day of productive work, no problems at all. And the only thing I found that has dented at all the performance of the battery is running the display at full brightness for a sustained period, much like on your iPhone. But other than that, battery is perfect. As for the ports, well, assuming you're not using one of the ports for external storage, and I haven't forgotten, I am coming back to that, I promise. Assuming you've left that free, you've got those two USB-C ports, which is absolutely more than enough to get you through a day of whatever you're doing out on the road. Now, on to storage. Here's my take on it. People say that storage from Apple is expensive, that you pay the Apple tax on it. Possibly that's true. But the real calling card, where the MacBook Air wins out above the other Macs, is its pick up and go function. It is so light and portable, you can take it anywhere and do pretty much anything on it. So why would you want to have external storage? Yes, you might pay a little bit more for having the internal storage, but it will always be quicker and it will let this Mac do what it does best and be ultra portable. And it's one of those Macs you can just pick up, put in your rucksack, get out the door. You haven't got to think about taking peripherals with you. So why would you suddenly then think about saving £150 and then having to remember to take a cable with you and take the drive with you? It's just not what this Mac was meant for. It's meant for portability and just quick production work on the go. So if you can, I would say go for the sweet spot of 1 terabyte. I'm assuming you're not going to be working with massive files on the MacBook Air. And 1 terabyte not only will be a great amount of storage for you to work on files locally on your machine before you save them somewhere else externally, but equally future-proofing, it will mean you've got better residual values on your Mac as well. So I reckon probably 16 gigs of unified memory and 1 terabyte of storage would be the absolute sweet spot for this machine. Now, we know with Apple Silicon and with the M series of chips, there is a certain amount of memory swapping going on. And I can tell you that on this MacBook Air, I would never have noticed it had it not been for one of my favorite apps kind of interfering. Clean My Mac, I absolutely love. I've got it on all 3 of my Macs at the moment. I really rate it. But on my M2 MacBook Air, I get these warning signs flash up in the top right corner with Clean My Mac saying memory almost full. It's not. The machine's never hot when I get those warnings. It's not labeling anyway. It's often not even doing particularly intensive tasks. And I've still got 400 gigs of the 512 gigs free after 6 months because most of the stuff I do, I offload once I finish working on it, and everything else like Apple Music and Dropbox are all in the cloud anyway. So there's not a lot stored on here. So this would be probably the only time I'd say to you, don't install Clean My Mac on this MacBook Air. It just seems to confuse it, and it's always worrying. Even when you know that that notification of getting on the screen isn't true, it's still worrying and distracting when you see it. So unless you've got a load of apps on here and you're going to want to uninstall big files or remove apps, which is what Clean My Mac is, brilliant app, perhaps think about not running on here, because the memory swapping that's going on, particularly if you've got 16 gigs of unified memory, you will never know it's going on in the background. I promise you. Treat yourself. That's all I can say. Treat yourself. If you're thinking of seeing the year out with an M2 MacBook Air, you'll be delighted with it. Try and spec it up that little bit. As I say, go for that sweet spot, maybe of 1 terabyte storage and 16 gigs of unified memory, but then let it do what it's designed to do. Let it be a Mac on the road. It will not let you down. Look, I've edited 4K video on there. I've edited podcasts with plugins on there. It can handle it. Is it designed to do that day in and day out? Probably not, but it can do it. So if you've got to finish projects while you're away from your main Mac and away from your desk or studio, the M2 MacBook Air really will do it. It shines. Apple Silicon just comes to life in these ultra lightweight MacBook Airs. Try it. Honestly, you will not be disappointed, but just be careful about putting Clean My Mac on your MacBook Air. But guys, let me know what you think. Have you got your MacBook Air yet? Are you thinking of getting one? And what kind of deal did you manage to pick up in the end of year sales? Thank you so much for watching. And as I say, thank you so much for all the new subscriptions I had last week. You know how much it means to me. I've got a good feeling we are going to hit those 1,000 subs before the end of the year. And it's all down to you guys. I'll keep making the content. You keep dropping a like, and I'll see you next week. Take care, guys.